Hello and welcome to another edition of Drivers Keepers. Now we've got something really special today because the Murcielago is 20 years old. So I've had my calculator out, I've been working out exactly how much it's cost to run over that full 20 years.
Sound interesting? Welcome to Drivers Keepers. So Sam, we're out in the Mersey.
We are.
And for a very special reason.
Indeed.
In a couple of days, it's going to be 20 years old.
20 years old, I remember the day well. September the 4th, 2004. And I walked into Lamborghini Manchester, and it was one of those days where it was surreal. Yeah. You know, you must have had it before when you picked up your 430.
Yeah, I remember it like it was yesterday, yeah.
You're kind of detached.
Yeah.
But I've said this to you before, it was kind of a really exciting moment picking up the first ever new Lamborghini I'd ever owned.
Yeah.
But tinged with a fair bit of panic because of the obvious reason, which some people watching this will know about, that I only had enough money to make the finance payments, which were, I think, £2,800 a month, $3,000 a month or something.
Right.
For 3 months, and once that money went, there was only three options. It was either the repossession men call,
yeah,
it gets sold,
yeah,
or I find a way for it to earn its own money. And of course, that's the third one, is obviously where it went.
But I guess after you'd driven it and owned it for a while, you didn't want to hand it back, did you?
No, not at all. I mean, I always swore that if I ever could get my hands on a new Lamborghini, it was always going to get driven. I just didn't expect at the time for it to tip over 300,000 miles.
Yeah, you've driven the brains out of it.
Well, I have, but obviously not all that mileage. I'd say about 60% of that mileage, so probably 170,000 miles is road use.
Yes.
The balance is track use, which was done by the many people on driving experience days which drove it.
And that's how it earned its living, like
that
we were
is how
saying.
it's earned its living and got its mileage.
You had to find a way to be able to keep it.
Correct.
And the only way for that to happen was if the car generated some income.
Exactly.
And that was the idea that you had.
That was the idea I had. I was sat where you are, with a brake pedal on your side, so I had kind of overall control.
Did you have to train to be an instructor then?
Well, there was training, but most of it was done on the job, to be honest.
Okay.
And I think the smell from the clutch, which was, you know, 6,000 quid a time, which I was very aware of, when customers were slipping the clutch, you knew full well that the clutch was the main thing you had to keep your eye on. So I spent a lot of my time leaning over, watching people's left foot, and making sure they weren't riding the clutch.
Yeah.
Because clutches, I've just said, 6,000 quid, and this is on its 10th. Yeah. So it's had a lot of clutches.
It's had a lot of everything, I should imagine, mate.
It has, because again, it had a big shunt on the track in 2013, which completely, it wasn't one of my finest days. It was a customer that was driving it. Not me as an instructor sat where you were, and the customer unfortunately lost it coming out of a chicane and put it into an Armco and then a tree.
I remember that day, mate. I remember you telling me about it.
It was just, I was that day I was destroyed. Because I just thought that was the end. I didn't think it'd ever come back from that, because the chassis was bent, the roof was actually warped, the wheels had been ripped off. It was just a mess. But
that's not the only time that we've thought this car's come to its end.
No, exactly.
And credit to you, you just won't let it die. You
Well, I think,
love it so much.
I think there'll be a lot of people watching this video who've got their own car that's really kind of sentimental, and I kind of try and phrase this, but it's not so much it's a car, this car, it's just an object which I've grown to love over the years. It happens to be a Lamborghini, but it could have easily been a picture.
Yeah.
You know, it could have easily been a painting.
Yeah.
And I've grown to love this car, and so I guess bringing it back from the dead on at least 2 occasions was something that had to be done. And again, going back to the 2013 smash, it was an economic write-off. It was a write-off. But fortunately, I had a business partner at the time who was really understanding, and we both kind of collaborated. But again, it's been said before, a lot of people chipped in, because I was writing a lot for Evo at the time, and it was a well-known car, and Lamborghini chipped in, a lot of the dealers chipped in, and it got rebuilt over the course of about 4 years. So it went back on the road in 2017, but in road spec only.
So that was it, retired from track work.
And it's worth pointing out about the mileage as well, because one thing I learned being an instructor was customers always used to be looking at the speedo, and this is one of those cars where if you're doing 50 miles an hour on a track, it feels like you're doing 90. And so I did disconnect the speedo at the time, because I realised people were just trying to push themselves too much. Obviously that didn't put miles on the Odo.
No.
So what I did is, me and one of the technicians at the time kept a really strict record of the mileage, and when the car was put back to road spec in 2017 after it smashed, all that mileage that it did on the track that we kind of wiped off, so to speak, we put back on again.
Back in,
because I think that was the correct thing to do. It's all part of its history.
Exactly
it just, you know, it had to be done. So to recap, 300,000 miles, probably 60-40 road track, 60-40 me, 40% customers driving it.
I mean, as we've said on other videos, and feel free to go into our back catalogue and watch the videos that we've made about this incredible car up in Scotland, driving it out to the Lamborghini factory in Italy. You've been all over Europe in it.
It's been right up to the Finnish border in the winter. In Scandinavia, it's been all the way down to the south of Spain. Most people will know it had 4 rebuilds on engine number 1. So 4 rebuilds, which was a cost of about, I think that was about 60 or 70,000 for the 4 rebuilds.
So costs is one of the things that we're going to discuss in this video, and we're going to detail just how much Simon's had to spend to get this car to its 20th birthday with 300,000 miles under its belt. And we just thought you might be interested to find out A, how much it's cost to run it, and B, how much it earned while it was working for a living on the track.
Exactly. So I got my calculator out and I totted up that altogether over 20 years, including tyres and including the engine rebuilds, the 10 clutches, general maintenance, it's about 270,000 quid.
Wow.
Then you got your fuel on top, which a rough calculation, probably 150,000. And then there's the price of the car, of course, because back in 2004, this was £191,000.
So we're at £500,000 quid.
We're more than that. We're more than that, but that was offset by the 8,000, and that is 8,000 people that have driven it. Probably some of which are watching this video now, which generated enough income to pay for the car.
Do you know how much income it did generate?
Well, I think in roundabout figures it was just over £1 million.
Right.
But of course that was complicated by the fact it was being run as part of a business as well.
Yes.
So all in all, I think it's just covered covered itself.
Yeah.
And I guess you can't put a value on the memories it's created over the years as well.
No. And nicely, not just, I mean, you mentioned before that sometimes it was quite difficult being in the passenger seat, watching other people driving your pride and joy.
Correct.
But going back to those nice memories that it's created for you, it's created memories for thousands of other people as well.
Do you know what? And that's one of the best things, we've talked about this before,
Yeah.
but that's one of the best things about owning a supercar. This one especially, because there are so many people, even on the comments, I'm sure in this video that we're doing now,
Yeah.
people will come on saying, I remember driving that car and it was a real memory, and then they'll send me pictures of them stood next to it in 2006.
That's just what made me think that in the comments before,
Yeah.
on other videos we made about it, people
Yeah.
would come on and go, I remember driving that car, it was
Yeah.
amazing, I did this,
Yeah.
I did that.
And it was
So it's your car,
exactly.
and now it's part of the driver's keepers fleet, but it's kind of your car as well. If you're one of the people who's
driven it,
been part of its history and driven it, then it's a little bit of you as well, which is fabulous. So talking about track, how long would a set of tyres last on the track?
probably about 6 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks.
Okay. And how long would your brakes last?
The pads have probably lasted about a month as well.
Wow.
But yeah, there's been some funny stories as well. I mean, I remember way before I got used to owning the car, I think I'd had it 2 or 3 months, and I was I'd seen these pictures of Valentino Balboni, Lamborghini's, legendary test
driver, yeah.
reversing Diablos and Murcielagos with the door up.
Yeah.
And I took a girl out on a first date right in the centre of Leeds, and she insisted we park up outside a really busy restaurant, actually, with people dining outside. And of course, reversing it in, I thought I'd do my trick of sitting on the edge of the sill and reversing it, and it was going really, really well until my foot slipped off the clutch and I went rocketing into the back of a Renault Clio parked behind. I tell you what, it even makes the hairs on the back of my neck stand up now. It was so embarrassing because the Clio's alarm was going off, people were laughing and clapping.
Of course.
Oddly enough, the Murcielago wasn't damaged, but the Clio had smashed his front bumper, or hers. So I had to get out and brave it out, and I don't think I ever saw the girl again. But embarrassing, yeah. But the thing is, a lot of people watching this who do own supercars will hopefully sympathise that.
Yes.
And yourself, it's easy to make yourself look an idiot in one of these cars.
If I'm ever going to stall the 430, it's pulling into a pub car park full of people sat in the beer garden.
Yeah.
And then I always seem to forget that it's got a starter button, so I go for the key to restart it, turn the key, nothing happens, I sit there looking like an idiot, and then my wife goes, big red button, mate. Oh yeah, I remember.
I know, it's embarrassing. It's because everybody's looking at you, and I can feel my face colouring up. And it's worse as I've got older. In my 30s I didn't mind the attention. In my 50s I really don't like it.
We're neither of us a fan of it, are we?
No. But I remember, again, just 3 or 4 months into owning the car, similar situation where I reversed into a car park. Again, people watching, and the door was up, I was looking behind, I wasn't sat on the sill this time, so I'd learnt my lesson. But just get past this tractor.
Listen to that.
You just can't beat that sound, can you?
Or that feeling of getting shoved back in your seat. Oh, it is a...
But yeah, reversing back in the car park, the door was up and I dabbed the brakes a bit too sharpish, and as I was looking out, the door came down like a guillotine, hit me on the side of the head. It literally nearly knocked me out.
Oh, man.
And I saw stars for a minute, and that was embarrassing too.
So now it's not earning a living anymore, Simon. It's well and truly retired from the track.
Yeah.
It's your pride and joy and nothing more than an incredible road car. So what are your costs like now? What does it cost to insure, for example?
Well, I mean, insurance isn't not too bad. It's with Zurich insurance, and it's about 2,000, just under 2,000 a year.
Okay. And your maintenance costs, how much do you budget a year for it?
I'd say about 5,000.
Okay.
And that's really for general servicing and little bits and bats doing. As you know, when supercars get old,
There's always something in there.
there's always something small or something big, whichever. But yeah, I'd say about 5,000 a year.
Okay. Talking of Zurich, we should probably give them a shout out, because it wasn't that long ago that this car again took an opportunity, not deliberately, but it broke your heart again a little bit, didn't it? And Zurich stepped in and absolutely saved the day. Tell us a little bit about what happened.
Now, I've got to say, I
know it's not a story you like to recount, but
no, I don't like recounting it.
No.
But on this particular occasion, I was driving back from MOT in the car in the Midlands and hit a stepladder which had fallen off a wagon and was lying across the first lane of the
I was going to say,
motorway.
you were on the motorway, you weren't just on a B road or an A road.
No, I was doing a good 60-70 miles an hour. I couldn't avoid this stepladder and hit it with the biggest bang you've ever heard. And yeah, it ripped the front spoiler off. Well, actually, the front spoiler was hanging off.
Yeah.
The bumper was dislodged, and the side sills were all damaged. So I thought, well, I've not made a claim in 20 years, so I'm going to ring Zurich. They were really good. They sent a pickup truck to pick it up, took it to Lamborghini, and within 2 days they were getting the bodywork done.
Brilliant.
Now the engine by that time was probably on about 270, 280,000 miles.
Yeah. Original engine.
Original engine with the 4 rebuilds.
Yeah.
And I picked the car up after the 3 months it took to do the bodywork, which incidentally was £44,000.
Jeez.
Which Zurich stepped straight up to the mark, paid out, got me the car back. I was driving it back on the M1 again when I started hearing this awful whining noise coming from the rear, and then that turned into a little bit of a rattle, and I started to get really, really nervous. I was on the motorway, and it was one of these awful sections of the motorway with no hard shoulder, nowhere to pull over, and I could see there was a service station about 5 miles in front, and I managed to get to the service station, but by that time the engine was belching out blue smoke. It was sounding like a load of tools in a cement mixer, and I was just nearly in tears, and pulled into the service station. The engine went bang, and that was it. So initially,
I'm just going to interject an experience that I think I can speak for all of us when I say I hope we collectively never have to experience that thought of hearing your engine disintegrating and then giving up the ghost is a petrolhead's worst nightmare, mate.
Yeah, it is, and I really thought that was the end for this car, because there was no way I was going to be able to afford another 80 or 90,000 pound engine. But I contacted Zurich and said, look, you know, this has happened, surely it's got to be part of the original accident. And they ummed and ahed, and then a specialist came out who concluded that when I'd hit the stepladder, the car had jumped over it, it had overspun the back wheels, the engine had overspun, and it had caused a disintegration of a valve which had fallen down into the engine, caused the engine to blow. So Zurich, after about a week, paid for a brand new engine, which was the last one available from Lamborghini at Sant'Agata in Italy.
Just sitting there in a box.
It was sitting there in a box on the parts shelf in Italy, and yeah, Zurich had it flown out, and it was fitted by Lamborghini Manchester. So the total bill for all that, including the bodywork, was 174,000.
Wow!
But it basically gave the car a new lease of life.
Totally.
That's the potted history of the Murcielago.
And if that was its only story, that would be amazing. But that's just one of many stories, as we've just recounted now. This car has had, you and this car have had such a life together and such experiences. It's legendary, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's
And a lot of people have a lot of affection for this car, definitely.
I think a lot of people have a lot of affection for it simply because they've driven it. There's so many people have driven it.
Yeah. Well, like me, I mean, before you and I met, I was an Evo subscriber, and every time my magazine dropped through the letterbox, first thing I did, go to the back, go to Fast Fleet, see if the Murcielago's in, because you wanted to find out how it was getting on, you wanted to find out how you were getting on with it. So we all felt invested, even people who maybe never drove it and never met you.
Do you know, I've got to tell you that, because for those of you watching this, Simon and I met because Simon lived in a barn in the middle of nowhere, and the only house next to it was the only house for about, what, a good mile either side, wasn't it?
We were in the middle of nowhere, mate.
Middle of nowhere, and I moved there because I wanted to get away from supercars, from people, the public, and everything else. I'll never forget moving in on Saturday, and the Sunday morning, what did I hear? But a Ferrari engine starting up, and I just thought, oh, for God's sake, I can't even get away, and it was you. It was funny, wasn't it?
And how long is that ago?
2000. That'll have been 2010, I think.
Right.
11, something like that.
On time.
So a fair few years ago.
So yeah, amazing car with an amazing story. That, as we were saying earlier, you've just been sitting down with a calculator. So let's just recap those headline numbers. Now it's 20 years old.
Yeah.
And now it's got 301,000 miles under its belt.
864.
So, overall cost, you reckon?
I reckon overall costs of general maintenance, which includes the rebuilds and all the 10 clutches, was 272,000.
Right. Purchase price?
191,000.
Right, so 272, 372, 472.
We've got the rebuild from 2013, which was 101,000.
Right, so with 600,000.
Then we've got, I mean, I don't know if we want to take fuel into consideration, but I reckon probably about 150.
Right.
150,000.
So 750.
And then, of course, we've got the big insurance job, which was 174,000, which included the new engine, the front end rebuild in the crash we were just talking about just about 18 months ago.
Right.
So we're kind of...
So 850, we're somewhere between 850 and 900,000 pounds.
Correct.
And it's, when it was working...
When it was working, it generated...
about $1 million?
About $1 million from 8,000 people who drove it.
So it did exactly what you needed it to do. It wiped its face.
It
allowed you to keep it.
It did.
So yeah, 2017, it was retired.
It was, 2017 was after it had been rebuilt and was put back to road spec and returned to the road full time.
Yeah.
And that's when it became my daily driver again. So I guess looking at the calculations, it's probably cost about £5,000 to £6,000 a year just for road use from 2017 to 2024.
I'm just going to do a little calculation now. So 365 days a year times 20, 7,300 days. What did we say? 950 divided. No. 13 pence a day?
No, it
can't be right. 0.13 times 7,300. 900. That's pounds. 300 equals
130 quid a day. That sounds about right.
Surely not.
If you just times 130, what's 100 and... Oh.
Let's try and do that. We should be... Oh, we are filming this. Oh, we're rubbish at maths. Right, hang on. We'll check that maths later.
Yeah.
So in the end, we omitted the £174,000 for new engine and accident damage, as that was covered by insurance, and we settled on the following figures. lucky it was earning a living.
Yeah.
So there you go, another episode of Drivers Keepers. We hope you enjoyed it. This time, an interesting insight into what it costs to keep a beast like this on the road for 20 years. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment. We love the comments. We always try and respond. And we'll see you soon enough for another episode. Thanks for watching.
See ya.